All right, so we're going to get right into it. The first one is from my guy, Simtex, and he says, I've noticed that pet peeves around PE change over the years as the community shifts from one mindset to another. So as of today, what are your biggest pet peeves when it comes to PE? So that's a great question. My guy, Simtex, he's been a contributor on the channel multiple times. I've shouted him out multiple times. If you guys aren't familiar with his contributions on Reddit, please check him out. My biggest pet peeves have largely unchanged. It's when people hop around from topic to topic to topic. And I've talked about this before, but just recently, oh my God, vibration was all the rage. You couldn't go on any subreddit or any kind of PE forum without somebody bringing dumbass vibration. The enthusiasm around it has decreased dramatically. There was a product, I'm not going to mention it for, potential legal reasons because there might be a class action lawsuit against him, but there was this product and I warned, we had several moderators that were, this was back in the before time when I was on Getting Bigger, that were actually getting free use of this supposedly $20,000 product. And I thought it was a conflict of interest at the time. But more importantly, I was like, this sounds too effing good to be true. If it sounds too good to be true, it almost always is. And sure enough, the device didn't work and he had a loophole in his money back guarantee. People got kind of scammed out of like $20,000, and that's where the lawsuit is. My pet peeve is just when people just jump around from top, oh, it's heat, it's vibration, it's compression hanging, it's like whatever it may be, without actually just understanding that there's no shortcuts in this, okay? Short of anything that's like anti-lysyl oxidase, if you haven't seen my video, which is not safe because it can literally cause death, there's just no shortcuts of this. My pet peeves is people that jump around and just hype the next latest, greatest thing. Also, when people make things too goddamn complicated, it really just irritates me when people try to overcomplicate things instead of just being, okay, you want to gain length? Well, honestly, you just kind of pull in your pee-pee and stretch it. If we stretch at a particular tension, you might activate more matrix. Now, I know that I've actually talked about this before, but at the end of the day, this is a bunch of theoretical shit. And until somebody puts out any definitive proof that's better than my Hink trial, where I show that people gained over a ½ inch in length and over a ¼ inch in girth using the techniques that I talk about with actual photographic proof, until somebody shows evidence of that happening faster with a different technique, I'm not going to be hard-headed, but it's just that stuff works, just consistency and simplicity, in my opinion. Those are my biggest pet peeves right now. I owe you a delayed r/Hink, my subreddit. We have a QA, and so I'm going to try to knock out some of these questions as quickly as I can without pontificating. If you are not subscribed to my subreddit, please subscribe there. And of course, if you're not subscribed on this channel, please subscribe. I'm on my way to 100K, baby, and you could be the next person to get me there. So the next question is from Beautiful Bed and says, what do you think is the best routine for those who already have good length but struggle with girth? So girth is the hardest thing to get. There's some people that, can get it quickly, but for the most part, everybody struggles with it. In general, I would focus on girth techniques. One of my friends actually recently was telling me that he was pumping, but he wasn't having success with it. You can do a couple of things. Number one is switch to a twice-a-day approach. So pump once in the morning and then pump once in the evening, ideally at least about 6 to 8 hours after that. The other thing you could do is incorporate another girth technique like pumping and incorporating soft clamping, or even potentially hard clamping, as long as you're doing it safely. But I also think that length work and girth work together. That was one of the main principles of the Hink trial as well. If you haven't seen the Hink trial write-up, photographs, and my YouTube video, check it out. It's probably going to be pinned in the comments in the description. But I do think they work synergistically to get you gains. So that's what I would recommend. So the next is from my guy, Blurred Username. And he says, breaking it down because it's a long post, he says, I have a device that I've attached to an elastic band secured at the end of my bed, and I wear that all night while I sleep. Hard stop there. Never do that, okay? Never do PE while you sleep. I don't care who you talk to. And, if you were an extender where you sleep, that could potentially give you an extra 8 hours. I get that. Never do it. Never do it. No exceptions. I would never recommend that. So I'm not going to try to crap on your routine, but I would never use a device that you're asleep where you're unconscious and doing PE. You're asking for trouble and you're asking for major injury. And bro, I'm looking kind of beefy again. Let's go. So the next question is from my guy Several, and he says, not a troll question, but what's the deal with occasional burning when peeing or ejaculating? It comes up very sporadically for as long as I can remember, but it never lasts more than a day or so. Seems pelvic floor related. I recently think I overdid a sauna session and or accidentally got excited in ADS, which might have caused a flare-up. I'm taking some time off now, but it was unbelievable to see the stretch that I was getting in those sauna sessions. I'm officially a believer in PE now. If you haven't seen my video on heat, check it out. But there are some real merits to using heat, especially in the warm-up setting and for the first half of your length routine. Once again, I think it can overcomplicate things. It can also increase the risk of things like edema and blisters. Use it sparingly and smartly. But yeah, there's a lot of truth to using it in a sauna. Now, there's a couple of things that can cause burning when you urinate. Number one, when you eat spicy foods, there's something that's called capsaicin. It's actually the spicy component. That's processed through basically your renal system or your kidney system. If you eat spicy, not only do you have spicy that comes out in your feces or your poo, but also you can actually pee out some of that capsaicin that can cause burning when you urinate. So just be aware of that. What's most likely happening is that you're irritating basically your penile urethra. So your urethra carries the urine out of your penis. So basically out of your bladder, down through your prostate and out, okay, out through your penis. But if you have something like an ADS device, but you're using some sort of vacuum cap, which applies negative pressure, that negative pressure can sometimes get transferred down your urethra and cause essentially what we call urethritis or inflammation of the urethra. You might want to back off when wearing an ADS and maybe just do something more like an extender for shorter, more intermittent sessions rather than just like leaving an ADS in place all the time. You know, what's much less likely is that you potentially could have something like a prostatitis or even potentially something like essentially a UTI or urinary tract infection, also known as cystitis. We sell a pump cleaner kit on Peak Male Physique. You do want to make sure that you have good hygiene, whether it is your pump or whether that is your vacuum cap. You want to make sure that you're actually cleaning the cylinder, cleaning the device so you don't risk something like an infection. It is very unlikely given the male anatomy, but, you know, it is something to consider. So the next question is one of the favorite questions that I've gotten in quite a while. It's from my guy Dapper, and he says, what's the most romantic date you've ever been on? I am a hopeless romantic, guys, and I love doing grand romantic gestures. But when I first met the girl that I'm currently with now over 12 years ago, I'm big into astronomy, meaning the study of the actual constellations in the sky, not what's your sign, whether you're Gemini and whatnot. This is simple, but this was early on in our dating cycle. And guys, I take things very slow. I took my girl out into, I don't know, maybe this sounds creepy now, but we went out into this poorly lit area where there wasn't any ambient light from any of the surrounding cities. And we literally just sat on the roof of my car and we just watched the stars. And I pointed out the different constellations. And it sounds kind of corny, but we had a blanket and it was just really nice and really simple. And I got to actually know her and know how she thinks rather than just trying to get in her pants. Which, of course, being a male, I obviously was trying to do that, but honestly, that didn't happen for like another 6 months. But the other most romantic thing that I did is I took the same girl actually out to where we have some property out in the country and basically researched her favorite types of food, favorite types of drinks. And we basically took four-wheelers back into the woods, and I had a picnic set up with her favorite foods and even had a little speaker with her favorite music. And then what I looked like a hero is we had like a zip line that goes down over a creek. And she was going down the zip line and she got stuck halfway over the creek. She was about to fall. Long story short, I like basically zoomed down there with like my four-wheeler. And right as she was literally falling off the zip line, which, guys, it was only like maybe 7 feet off the ground, okay? But it was over a creek and she didn't want to get wet. But as she falls, I basically hold on to the handle with one hand, and then I actually catch her with the other hand like this, literally like this far above the water. And it's kind of corny, but I was just, hey, what's up? Yeah, and that was a wrap. I don't know. Maybe they're not that romantic, but I am a big fan of grand romantic gestures.
So, hey guys, so quick edit. The most romantic thing I ever did, when I was finishing up my residency, my girl finished her residency before me, and so she actually started a job about 3 months before me and actually moved locations. Every day for about 94 days when we were apart, I wrote her a handwritten letter just letting her know how much I care about her and how much I missed her. That is probably the most romantic thing I've ever done. Back to the video.
So the next one is from my guy Much Movie. He says, what's more important, hitting higher pressures or having less edema? That's interesting. I do think in general you have to pump high enough to actually cause some enlargement, but for some people that could be as low as like 8 inches of mercury. I think that there is a balance between the two. Just because you get edema doesn't mean that you're not working, but sometimes if you're pumping for too long or at too high a pressure, or you're just very sensitive to pressure, you could get edema. I would say probably the correct pressure is most important. Guys, if you haven't seen my videos on like the most important pressure, check it out. So the next one is from Bucks the 2021. He says, how do I manage to keep a nice flaccid all the time? My PP is acorn, #acorn gang, baby. Even after 6 months of pumping and extending consistently, also Messi or Ronaldo. So if you haven't seen my flaccid tier list and also like my growers versus showers video, you should definitely check those out because I literally break down this exact question. The issue might be your blood flow, bro. You either have extremely high levels of elastin, basically, which causes your PP to stretch, but then basically like right back into place, or you have poor blood circulation, or you're stressed out all the time, which is limiting your pelvic blood flow and your sympathetic nervous system. So relax, or maybe try an amazing blood flow inducing product, of course, Vigor, Amazon choice product, or even potentially our Fortitude product to help increase that blood flow all the time. Also, sometimes even something like low-dose Cialis, talk to your doctor. I'm a clown in a mask, what do I know? But those are the types of things that if you are pumping and you're extending, getting that additional blood flow in the area should help significantly. But on my Hink trial, I mean, these guys gained, I forgot exactly, but somewhere between half an inch at least to an inch on their actual flaccid length, and had like a half an inch gain in flaccid girth. Once again, just using those techniques. I hope I'm not sounding like a broken record, but literally the Hink trial showed increases in both flaccid and erect length. So, I mean, and girth. Like, I just think those methods are going to be key in increasing the size of your PP. I would also wonder what your actual routine is if you're gaining size potentially, but not gaining increase in your actually flaccid size. So the last question is going to be from my guy Only Just For This. He says, what are your thoughts on taking caffeine pills, aka 200 milligrams per pill? I'm tired of drinking coffee and it doesn't feel efficient in providing stimulant. That's a great question, guys. I absolutely hate the taste of coffee. Ever since I was studying for college in my first year, I used to drink coffee to stay up at night, so it reminds me of studying. I take caffeine pills, okay? Currently, obviously, you guys know our Vigor is non-stimulant, but we actually do have a stimulant version of Vigor coming out, so, stay tuned. But the point is that I think caffeine pills are a wonderful substitute for drinking coffee, because typically with coffee, even if you drink it black, there's a risk of things like staining your teeth, or if you're drinking, of course, with cream and sugar, you're getting additional calories. I take a caffeine pill. I try to limit my caffeine to less than 400 milligrams per day, just because that's typically the limit for, your average man. So just be careful with those. And caffeine can literally be deadly. I would never recommend caffeine powder, because there's been cases, especially in the UK, where caffeine powder is legal, where people will think they're putting in creatine and put 2 big scoops of caffeine in there and literally die. If you need me for coaching, patreon.com/DocHink. You're so much more than the size of your D. Be the best version of yourself. And there's nothing wrong with self-improvement, but you are enough just as you are. Guys, peace and love.
Dr. Hink got the plug on the health, yeah. Got you thinking about your wealth, yeah. In his office, no stealth, yeah. Pinnacle of that below the belt, yeah. Checks and balance, he's managing. Working miracles, no damage. Got you covered, no panicking. Stay calm. In the clinic, no vanishing. Yeah, with Doc Hink, it's the way back.